Tonight on Ukraine Today, night of Russian terror in Kyiv, residential buildings, a kindergarten and a synagogue were damaged. In the Kharkiv region, the occupiers struck rescuers. An American strike. Trump has officially cancelled his meeting with Putin. The US imposes sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft. Jets for Ukraine. Kyiv and Stockholm have signed a letter of intent to purchase at least 100 new Gripen fighters. Belgium is sending F-16s. Long-awaited resolve. For the first time under NATO's direct order, the British Navy intercepted a Russian warship in its territorial waters. All that and more, right now. Hi there, my name is Volodymyr Robchun. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and let's get to the news. The second night of Russian terror in a row. Several locations in Kyiv were hit: residential buildings, a kindergarten and a business center. At least 7 people are reported injured. Occupiers also attacked a synagogue with a Shahed drone. Ukraine's chief rabbi Moshe Reuven Assman shared a video from the scene. In the Kharkiv region, Russian forces struck firefighters who came to extinguish a blaze after the previous attack. A 50-year-old unit commander was killed. 5 of his colleagues were injured. In Sumy, Russians hit a railway station. They are wounded. The occupiers killed 2 media workers in Kramatorsk, journalist Olena Gramova from the Freedom TV channel and cameraman Yevhen Karmazin. Since the first day of the full-scale invasion, they had been working in the Donetsk region, telling the truth about Russian crimes. Our deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of the fallen colleagues. Moving to Russia, explosions rocked the city of Kopeysk near Chelyabinsk. An emergency occurred at a plant that produces ammunition for the Russian army. Most likely it was a Ukrainian strike. Meanwhile, a fire broke out at an oil refinery in Ryazan region. The information is being clarified. Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal published a story shortly before these events, saying the Trump administration lifted a key restriction on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles. The outlet suggests Ukraine may now carry out more strikes on Russian territory using Storm Shadow missiles. Just to clarify, Storm Shadows can't reach Ryazan or Chelyabinsk. Their operational range is about 560 kilometers. While Tomahawks go 2,500. Just saying. No hints. Trump called the Wall Street Journal story fake. In his post on Truth Social, he wrote that the United States have nothing to do with Ukraine's use of long-range weapons. But the US could have been involved, Mr. President, and yes, now I'm hinting at Tomahawks, of course. Though Trump's words can also be read differently. The US provided the missiles, but when and how to use them, that's up to Ukraine. By the way, Trump also spoke about Tomahawks. Talking to reporters, he said using that kind of weapon requires careful preparation. The US knows how to do it, but won't teach others.
Well, the problem with the Tomahawk that a lot of people don't know, it'll take a minimum of 6 months, usually a year, to learn how to use them. They're highly complex. So the only way a Tomahawk is going to be shot is if we shot it, and we're not going to do that. But there is a tremendous learning curve with the Tomahawk. It's a very powerful weapon, very accurate weapon, and maybe that's what makes it so complex. But it will take a year. It takes a year of intense training to learn how to use it. And we know how to use it, and we're not going to be teaching other people. It's too far out into the future.
You heard him. Now, forget it. Trump can easily change his mind. Same as with the meeting with Putin in Budapest. Since Friday, he's already announced it, postponed it, and now cancelled it. A man of consistency. Although, combined with other recent decisions, which we'll get to, this is still a strong blow to Russia and the Kremlin regime. Ukrainian defense forces have liberated the village of Kucherev Yar in the Donetsk region. The Ukrainian flag is flying there again. The settlement was captured during the Russian push toward Dobropilla. Now, the Ukrainian troops have taken over 50 occupiers prisoner, a solid addition to the exchange fund. More about the situation on the front line. Next.
Russian mechanized assaults are suffering a complete collapse. Equipment is burning on all fronts and the occupiers are being transferred to motorcycles. Ukrainian armed forces strikes on Russian rear positions are crippling Putin's economy, and Russian citizens are now openly calling for a strike on the Kremlin.
The Kremlin isn't here. Fuck off.
You need to hit the Kremlin, assholes. You got the coordinates mixed up.
Zaporizhzhia is under threat. What all military analysts have been talking about has begun. And also Pokrovsk, the thorn in the Kremlin's side, continues to hold out, drawing Russian reserves and preventing Moscow from gaining a strategic advantage along the entire front line. Russia is trying to take advantage of the last weeks of good weather to advance as much as possible on the front. This is exactly why the enemy suffered record losses of heavy equipment in October compared to the entire year of 2025. Just in the past 24 hours, 2 tanks and more than a dozen armored fighting vehicles were destroyed.
With small assault infantry groups, it is theoretically possible to advance, but certainly not to any significant depth. This may indicate that right now there is an attempt at a mechanized offensive aimed at breaking through the front line across a width of at least 6 to 8 kilometers, just as it is described in military textbooks and combat regulations, and to advance at least several dozen kilometers. Heavy equipment is being used for this purpose.
The most well-prepared assault units, both in terms of equipment and personnel, are traditionally concentrated in the Pokrovsk direction. However, round-the-clock attacks are not bringing the occupiers the results they desire.
As of today, it is clear that despite the enemy's superior forces on all fronts, including the Pokrovsk direction, which remains truly the hottest spot and where the Russian army is attacking the most, we can say that such frontal actions by the Russians are unlikely to be repeated today, because it is obvious that the 51st Combined Arms Army, which is attacking in this direction, already has plenty of other problems to deal with.
And the main one is the encirclement of Russian troops near Dobropilya. For about a month now, Moscow has been trying to send in reinforcements there, which significantly disperses the efforts of the Russian group. As a result, all that has been achieved regarding Pokrovsk is the presence of small sabotage and reconnaissance groups on the outskirts of the city.
Indeed, counter-sabotage operations are very active today. Accordingly, the main task for the defense forces is to drive the Russians out of the urban buildings as much as possible, because engaging in urban combat is the Russians' objective at this stage, to gain a foothold in the city in order to wait for reinforcements from other forces.
At the same time, it seems that another hotspot may become the Zaporizhzhia direction. After Pokrovsk, this is the second place where the Russians are trying to break through with large mechanized columns. However, they are also failing to achieve any results here. The situation has reached the point where even the Z military bloggers, who usually praise every wise decision of the command, have been forced to change their rhetoric.
The enemy can easily provide 30 FPV drones for every 1 tank. Accordingly, no tank can withstand 30 FPV drones. That's the whole point. It's peanuts. Go to hell, all you so-called experts who keep pushing for more recruitment just to send people to be wiped out in columns.
However, in the high offices of the occupiers, they stopped counting losses a long time ago. The main thing is to ensure progress at any cost, and where there is none, at least show the necessary determination.
I believe that for the enemy it is extremely important to get as close as possible to the regional center of Zaporizhzhia. Control over this settlement would not only allow Vladimir Putin to claim that he controls the entire Zaporizhzhia region, but also seriously damage the infrastructure, primarily the industry of this regional center. In the south of the Zaporizhzhia region, there is quite a large distance between settlements. This means that the enemy has the opportunity to maneuver forces and resources.
At the same time, today's maneuvers are mostly aimed at controlling Ukrainian logistics. After all, a large weapons hub in the form of the regional center allows the Ukrainian armed forces to quickly deliver ammunition and reserves.
In the Poltavka-Malinovka-Uspanovka sector, Russian infantry regularly conducts assault operations, mainly using convicts and other expendables. The logistics situation is about the same as in all other directions. The Russian armed forces are trying to control all transport routes, setting up ambushes or drone surveillance zones, including using optical equipment.
However, attempts to quickly rush through the kill zone sometimes end in mishaps, such as this self-destruction against a disabled vehicle.
They were heading into the attack, but because of the smoke from the smoke grenades, they didn't see the disabled armored vehicle and crashed into it one after another.
At the same time, intense fighting continues in the Russian rear as well. For example, a drone and Storm Shadow cruise missile strike the day before appears to have permanently shut down the Bryansk chemical plant.
The results of the strike are being clarified, but according to monitoring channels, the plant has been completely destroyed. Photos of the missile tail sections scattered around the area were published in Telegram channels. The Bryansk chemical plant is an important part of the Russian military-industrial complex. At this facility, the occupiers produced gunpowder, explosives, and components for rocket fuel.
By the way, Ukrainian attacks on Russian military-industrial facilities seem to have annoyed Russians so much that they're finally starting to realize where the real source of all their problems lies.
The Kremlin isn't here, damn it. They should be hitting the Kremlin, idiots. They got the coordinates mixed up.
And finally, a wonderful story from the SBU. After watching yet another propaganda video about Russian light aircraft intercepting drones, the security service decided to make their own video. The specialists easily copied the coordinates, and the next drone route was set to those locations.
Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling the truth about Russia's war. Click the link in the description to become our sponsor. Now is a perfect moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And please share it so more people can see the truth. Thank you and glory to Ukraine. Over 50 Russian officers from elite units have been eliminated in Ukraine. That's a serious loss for the enemy. Those are highly trained specialists whose preparation takes years. Details next.
More than 3,000 kilometers. That is the current length of the front line between Ukraine and Russia. Of that, nearly 1,000 kilometers are active combat zones. Hundreds of kilometers where Ukrainian defenders break the backbone of an army that was once called the second strongest in the world, every single day. And every meter of this line is a story of courage, loss, and unbreakable will. At this front, not only columns of equipment and infantry are being destroyed, but also Russia's military elite. During the full-scale invasion, Ukrainian fighters have eliminated dozens of special forces operatives from the elite Sines and Kubinka units. Those whom even in Russia itself are called the elite of the elite.
Losses of such fighters are especially painful for Russia. Each of them is not an ordinary soldier, but a specialist who has undergone years of training. Training a single officer like this takes years and requires significant resources, as noted by I Want to Live.
Recently, a documentary film was released to the public about the elimination of a sabotage and reconnaissance group from the Sines Special Operations Center, which was operating in the Chernihiv region. This operation became one of the most successful since the beginning of the full-scale war. Ukrainian scouts from the 54th Separate Reconnaissance Battalion, together with border guards from the 105th Detachment named after Prince Volodymyr the Great, eliminated 6 enemy officers. The bodies of those killed, as well as weapons and equipment, were captured.
Sines is in action. They enter Ukrainian territory with GoPro cameras turned on, recording everything they do, if you can even call it work. Murder, sabotage, it's essentially terror, and they are the first to show this to their, perhaps, commanders or superiors to report back. That's the first thing. And secondly, they post all of this online to intimidate people. There are videos titled How I Spent This Summer. And in these videos, there are direct montages. The killing of Ukrainians, Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian civilians.
The Sines and Kubinka centers are key units of the Russian Federation's Special Operations Forces, reporting directly to the General Staff. Only the best of the best are selected there, those who are supposed to carry out the most complex, covert and dangerous missions. They are trained using Western methods and deployed in operations outside the country, from Ukraine to Africa. But in Ukraine, even such an elite proved powerless. Those whom Moscow calls invisible fighters become visible on Ukrainian fields.
Stop. Come here! I've got him! Holding. Get out. 1, 2, 3, 4!
According to the I Want to Live project, during the war, Ukraine has eliminated at least 58 fighters from the Russian Special Operations Forces of the GRU and FSB. For the enemy's army, these are not just losses, it's a blow to the core personnel, to those who were supposed to conduct reconnaissance, coordinate operations, and prepare new sabotage missions. And while Russian propaganda keeps talking about precision weapons and the professionalism of the army, the reality is completely different. Across more than 3,000 kilometers of front, Ukraine is not only holding the line but also systematically eliminating those whom the Kremlin considers untouchable. And no matter how long Russia wages this aggression, the defense forces will always give the same answer. No invader will remain alive on Ukrainian soil.
In the past 24 hours, Russia lost at least 920 troops killed and wounded. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, that brings the total number of Russian losses to 1,134,170. In addition, during the last day, Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 2 Russian tanks, 6 armored vehicles, 24 artillery systems and dozens of other enemy assets. Ukraine and Sweden have signed a letter of intent for the purchase of at least 100 new Gripen fighter jets. According to President Zelensky, Ukraine expects to receive the first aircraft in 2026.
We know about your jets a lot. I'm not sure that everything, of course, only Sweden knows everything, but a lot. We can compare with other platforms. And we use now jets different from the jets what have been produced during Soviet period of time, and also F-16s, not Block 50 plus. I mean, not young, not new generations, and etc. But in any way, we are thankful for everything what we used and what has been delivered to Ukraine to support us. But if you look strategically on your air fleet, and we understand that there are the best 3 platforms, Gripen, F, and Rafales. And I don't want to open all the things, all our steps, what we need and what we'll do, but for our army, this is a priority. Gripens are the priority.
But Gripens aren't the only ones. Ukraine will also receive F-16s from Belgium, and it's purchasing both attack and transport helicopters. More on the upgrades to Ukraine's Air Force ahead.
One of the largest and most popular Russian Telegram channels, the Via Mayora, with an audience of over 1 million subscribers, reposts news about Ukraine purchasing combat and transport helicopters.
We're talking about the Viper and Venom. The manufacturer, Bell Textron, has announced the signing of a letter of intent to develop cooperation with Ukraine. An agreement was signed to assess approaches to industrial cooperation as part of a potential purchase of AH-1 Zulu and UH-1 Yankee helicopters. The Venom is a transport helicopter, while the Viper is an attack helicopter that carries Hellfire missiles. Both of them can use 70mm rockets, which basically means APKWS, and the Venom can be equipped with a minigun. And recalling American exercises, Ukraine could use these helicopters to shoot down drones like the Geran.
The interest of Russian media in the purchase of such helicopters indicates that the Kremlin understands that with the appearance of these birds in Ukrainian skies, the air defense system will become much more effective in combating Shahed attack drones. Bell attack helicopters are being purchased to replace the outdated Mi-24 and Mi-8, which have long since exhausted their service life. 85% of the parts in the Viper and Venom are identical, which means cheaper and simpler maintenance. The Viper was created during the Vietnam War back in 1965, and by the 2000s it received new engines and rotor, upgraded avionics, a fire control system, comprehensive survivability improvements, as well as extensive digitalization. In terms of capabilities, the Viper is almost on par with the best attack helicopter in the world, the Apache.
The Apache is objectively more powerful because it is a machine with a maximum takeoff weight of 10.4 tons compared to 8.4 tons. The Apache's combat radius is 300 kilometers, while the Viper's is 243 kilometers. Also, the Apache's main armament is more numerous, up to 16 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles compared to 8 on the Viper. But the standard combat loadout on the Apache is quite similar to the Viper: 8 Hellfires and 2 pods of 70mm unguided Hydra rockets. As for the automatic cannons, it's 30mm versus 20mm.
An agreement has already been signed to assess approaches to industrial cooperation within the framework of purchasing Viper and Venom helicopters.
We are proud to announce this agreement and the possibility of supplying these incredible helicopters to Ukraine. This initiative has been in development for some time, and we look forward to its completion. Jeffrey Schlosser, Senior Vice President of Bell.
In addition to the procurement of transport and attack helicopters, Ukraine will soon receive another batch of F-16 fighter jets. The Belgian Minister of Defense stated that as early as the beginning of 2026, the new birds will enter service with Ukraine immediately after Belgium receives its new F-35s.
We continue to receive deliveries according to schedule. The first 3 F-35s, not 4, have already arrived. Now they need to become operational. I think this will take a year or a year and a half. Once we achieve operational capability, we will be able to transfer our F-16s to Ukraine. This is a very important phase. I always explain this to the Ukrainians. As soon as we are able, we will transfer them. But don't forget that our country has DCA capabilities and plays an important role in NATO's nuclear deterrence policy. This is the cornerstone of our doctrine.
This year, Ukraine received 2 F-16s from Belgium for spare parts. And according to the security agreement between Ukraine and Belgium, the latter must deliver 30 F-16 fighter jets by 2028. As of June 2025, Ukraine has already received more than 40 F-16s from its allies.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
For the first time under NATO's direct order, the British Navy has intercepted a Russian warship in its territorial waters. That's according to Sky News. It was the destroyer Vice Admiral Kulakov. Monitoring of Russian warships had happened before, but this time the Royal Navy operated directly under NATO's command. London said this mission demonstrates the UK's readiness to defend its territorial waters and strengthen cooperation with allies. The United States has imposed sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft, along with 28 of their subsidiaries. That's according to the US Treasury Department. At the same time, the EU approved its 19th package of sanctions against Russia, targeting banks, crypto exchanges and companies in India and China. The EU also restricted travel for Russian diplomats. And finally, about the EU's expansion and the weakening of Russia's influence. This time it's all connected to Armenia. Details next.
The Armenian government will continue to follow a pro-European course despite the fact that certain political forces are insisting on closer ties with Russia. This was stated by Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan in an interview with Deutsche Welle.
Quite a lot of time has already passed, but the relationship between Azerbaijan and Armenia, I think, is on the right track, moving in the right direction. And here, very serious negotiations are underway. And by the beginning of this year, fundamental agreement had already been reached on the main points of the peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Mirzoyan also spoke about negotiations with Azerbaijan and the start of the process to define the general position of the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
And then in August of this year, at the initiative of President Trump, a meeting was held in Washington between the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia, during which very important documents and declarations were signed, including a document on peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia was initialed.
For the first time in 35 years, Kazakh grain was delivered from Azerbaijan to Armenia. President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev also spoke about the positive trend towards peace. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan assured that Armenia is technically ready even today to provide transit for cargo trucks through its territory from Turkey to Azerbaijan and back.
And just yesterday, the leader of Azerbaijan, the head of state of Azerbaijan, announced that Azerbaijan is opening up transit opportunities through its territory for Armenia. And then we became acquainted with the statement from the Armenian side. The leader of Armenia stated that Armenia's territory is also open for transit shipments from various countries to Azerbaijan.
The head of the Armenian Foreign Ministry refers to Russia as the main partner in the economy and trade. But at the same time, the politician points out that there have been many issues on which Armenia and Russia have reached agreements. However, on many other issues, the countries have still not reached a consensus.
Democracy is our choice. We are deepening our relations with the European Union, with the United States of America, that is, with our strategic partners. Cooperation with other countries is our sovereign choice, our decision. So either normal partners respect each other and each other's decisions, or this partnership needs to be renewed.
According to Mararat Mirzayan, even before submitting an official application and receiving a response from the European Union, Armenia has already begun working with it, significantly deepening bilateral relations. In addition, negotiations are underway regarding several new documents. Work on a new partnership program has been completed, and it will be signed within the next 3 months.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. Strength to Ukraine's defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and share. See you next time.